All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive.
Let's do it.
Today, we're tackling some pretty powerful stuff. Buddha's teachings on happiness.
Oh, yeah. Definitely powerful.
And we're not talking about just like that surface level, yay, you got a new phone kind of happiness.
Right.
We're going deeper. We're exploring the inner peace that even Buddha, a prince living a pretty cushy life, had to learn. That's kind of wild, right?
It really is. It's fascinating, actually, because Buddha wasn't just born enlightened.
Right.
He started out as Siddhartha Gautama, a prince, completely shielded from all the hard parts of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until he was 29 that he actually ventured out of his palace
Oh, wow.
and encountered suffering for the first time. That's really when his journey began.
Can you imagine going from like luxury and ease to all of a sudden facing sickness, aging, death? I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a reality check.
Exactly. Talk about an existential crisis.
Right.
Yeah. And this biographical detail is super important for understanding his teachings. Because Buddha's own struggles with suffering, that became the very foundation of his philosophy.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what led him to renounce his whole royal life and seek a path to lasting peace.
And ultimately becoming the awakened one, right?
Yeah, the awakened one.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of his approach to happiness then. So it seems like he wasn't about chasing fleeting pleasures, right?
Right.
He was more focused on how to end suffering. It's almost like he approached happiness as a problem to solve.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And he lays out this framework for problem solving in what are called the Four Noble Truths.
Okay.
And the first noble truth acknowledges this universal truth
Mm-hmm.
that everyone suffers. Everyone experiences it, whether it's physical pain, emotional distress, or, even just that disappointment when our expectations aren't.
Okay, yeah, I think we've all been there.
Right.
Life throws curveballs.
It does.
Okay, so then we get to the second noble truth. And this is where I think things start to get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because Buddha actually pinpoints attachment as the root cause of suffering. Like this clinging we have to things that are constantly in flux, that are changing.
It's this idea that we get so attached to our material possessions or, relationships, even our reputation, our beliefs, our ideas.
Right.
But the problem, we treat these impermanent things like they're permanent fixtures in our lives.
Exactly.
Right. And so we cling to them, we crave them, and then we end up building our happiness around them.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything's in this constant state of flux.
Right. And it's kind of a whoa moment when you really grasp that,
Yeah.
Everything changes. The good, the bad, nothing stays the same.
Right.
But yet we instinctively, we try to like grip even tighter to the good stuff,
Right.
which just makes the inevitable loss even more painful.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's that clinging and that grasping that actually creates the conditions for suffering.
Okay.
So it's interesting to consider, what are you particularly attached to? What are you afraid to lose? And how does that fear shape your actions,
Mm-hmm.
your decisions, your overall well-being?
Yeah.
Is something to really reflect on.
Yeah. That is a lot to consider, I think, for all of us. Deep breaths, everybody.
Yes, deep breaths.
But thankfully, there's that third noble truth, which tells us that suffering can be overcome.
Yeah,
This is where I think a little bit of hope starts peeking through, right? We're not doomed.
right.
Okay, so the third noble truth then really offers this powerful message of hope, of possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the question becomes, how do we actually loosen our grip on all that stuff? How do we break free from attachment when it feels so deeply ingrained in us?
Yeah.
And I think this is where mindfulness comes in.
Mindfulness, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of sati, as it was called in Pali.
Okay.
It's all about cultivating this deep awareness of the present moment. And a non-judgmental awareness is
Yeah.
important to add. It's like you're watching your thoughts, you're watching your emotions, you're watching your sensations, just noticing them as they come up,
Yeah.
but not getting swept away,
Okay.
not judging yourself for them.
So it's not about like suppressing our thoughts or emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's
Why?
more about being curious about them.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, oh, there's anger. Okay, interesting. Like a scientist, right?
Absolutely.
Observing a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the more we do that, the more we start to see how everything is impermanent, including those thoughts and feelings. They rise, they pass away,
They come, they go.
just like everything else.
It's like waves on the ocean,
Yeah, like waves on the ocean. And as we cultivate this understanding, we start to loosen our grip on that need to control everything, that need to possess.
So it's not about becoming like an emotionless robot or
Hmm.
like denying ourselves pleasure, right?
Right.
It's about experiencing life fully, but without that frantic, fearful clinging
That frantic
that
cling.
causes so much suffering.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's about finding that peace and freedom amidst all of the change.
Okay, this is all starting to sound a little bit more doable, I think, even for us regular folks, who aren't meditating monks.
Right.
But how do we actually cultivate this mindfulness? Where do we even begin? Is this where that fourth noble truth comes in, the Eightfold Path?
The Eightfold Path, that's exactly right. The Fourth Noble Truth is all about the path, the practice, the how-to of ending suffering.
Hmm.
And the Eightfold Path, that's Buddha's roadmap to get there.
Okay.
But it's not just about meditation.
Oh,
Even though meditation is a very key component, it's a really holistic framework.
okay.
So we're talking about ethical conduct, mental discipline, and also the development of wisdom.
So it's more than just sitting cross-legged and chanting them then.
Yeah, much more.
It's about like integrating these principles into every aspect of our
To
lives.
every aspect.
I'm intrigued. I'm ready to dive deeper into this Eightfold Path and really see like what practical wisdom we can pull out of it. But I think we need a little more time
Yeah, we
to
do.
unpack this toolkit.
Yeah, it's a rich path, and I think it deserves our full attention.
So we'll continue our exploration in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good?
Until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open. Welcome back, deep divers. So we're picking up right where we left off, exploring the Eightfold Path,
Yeah,
Buddha's roadmap, so to speak, to a happier and more fulfilling life.
right.
It's quite a comprehensive toolkit.
It is.
But don't worry, we're going to break it down
Yeah.
and see how these ancient principles can actually be applied to our very, very modern lives.
And it's remarkable how these teachings, they originated centuries ago,
I know.
but they seem tailor-made for the issues we grapple with now in the 21st century.
Right. Like Buddha was ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was.
So let's dive right in. The first element of the path is, right, understanding. And I'm guessing this is about more than just having like good comprehension skills.
Got it. It goes much deeper than that,
Right.
right? Understanding is really about seeing the world as it truly is,
Okay.
free from all those distortions from our own biases and preconceptions. It's about recognizing that everything changes, that everything's impermanent,
Mm.
that all beings are interconnected, and also that law of cause and effect.
Yeah.
Our actions really do have consequences.
So it's almost like you're laying the foundation,
Yeah.
the groundwork for the rest of the path. Like if we're building our house on shaky ground,
Exactly.
the whole thing's going to crumble.
Right. Understanding it really sets the stage for everything else. It's aligning your worldview with that reality of impermanence and suffering and the possibility of liberation.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork then with right understanding. What comes next?
Next, we have right thought, or sometimes called right intention.
Okay.
And this one emphasizes how powerful our thoughts are in shaping our reality. It's about cultivating wholesome thoughts,
Mhm.
thoughts that are rooted in kindness, compassion, understanding,
Okay.
and letting go of those thoughts that are fueled by greed, hatred, delusion.
It's funny. We talk so much these days about like manifesting and stuff.
Yeah.
The power of positive thinking. But it seems like Buddha was way ahead of the game on this one.
He was, but right thought, it's not about just wishful thinking or
Right.
positive affirmations. It's about aligning our intentions with that wisdom of the Four Noble Truths,
Okay.
with understanding that true happiness comes from freeing ourselves from attachment and cultivating those wholesome qualities.
It really makes you think about how much of our mental energy
Yeah.
is just spent on unhelpful thoughts, worries, anxieties. It's like our minds are on autopilot.
Yes,
They're
conscious.
just churning out negative self-talk,
Yeah.
judgment.
And that's where right effort comes in,
Okay.
because this encourages us to consciously and consistently cultivate those wholesome qualities. Mindfulness, concentration, kindness, compassion. And recognizing that spiritual growth, it takes work. It
Yeah.
takes effort.
Okay, so we're not just passively hoping for like positive vibes to magically appear.
Right.
It's about being active
Absolutely. Being very active.
with our minds.
Yeah, it's like tending a garden. You have to pull out the weeds. You have to fertilize the soil, water the plants
That's a great analogy.
if you want them to flourish. Right?
Yeah, that's a good word.
And the same goes for our minds, We
Yeah.
have to be mindful of what we're feeding them, what we're allowing to take root.
This makes me think about, how easy it is to get caught up in that comparison game,
Oh, yeah.
especially on social media.
That's
When you're
nice.
scrolling through everyone else's highlight reel,
Right.
you start to feel inadequate or envious.
It's a perfect example of how those unwholesome thoughts, they can really just creep into our minds and create so much suffering.
They really do?
And that's where mindfulness can be a powerful antidote. Cultivating that present moment awareness so we can notice those thoughts as they come up.
Okay.
And then we can make a choice to
Right.
not engage with them.
Right. So instead of getting sucked into that like spiral of comparison and
Yeah.
self-criticism,
Totally.
you observe the thoughts, you acknowledge them, but you don't have to identify with them.
Yeah.
Don't let them like take over.
Exactly. Just watch them drift by like clouds in the sky.
Okay, so we've got right understanding, right thought, right effort, and right mindfulness. Making our way through the Eightfold Path. What's next?
Next, we come to right speech.
Okay.
And this one focuses on how powerful our words can be. So it's about speaking truthfully, speaking kindly, helpfully, and avoiding speech that is harmful or divisive or untrue.
It's like Buddha was really onto something with this mindfulness thing, wasn't he?
He was.
It's not just our thoughts, but it's our words, it's our actions.
Applying it to every aspect of how we engage with the world,
Exactly.
both internally and externally. And with right speech, it's recognizing that our words have a huge impact
Yeah, they do.
on ourselves and others.
It really makes you think about how much negativity we encounter
Oh, yeah.
every single day, just in our conversations online.
Everywhere.
Gossip, complaining,
All the time.
harsh criticism.
It's a constant barrage
Yeah, it is.
of negativity.
And it's easy to just get swept up in it,
so easy.
add to it without even realizing.
Without realizing, yeah.
Right, speech is encouraging us to break free.
Yes, break free from that cycle.
Choose our words carefully, speak with intention, and use our voices to actually promote understanding and harmony.
Exactly. And it's not about never speaking or, suppressing our opinions.
Right.
It's about expressing ourselves in a way that's authentic
Mm-hmm.
and also compassionate.
I love that.
It's about uplifting, inspiring, connecting, not tearing down, dividing, spreading negativity.
It's like that saying, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Oh, I love that.
Before you speak. Such a good filter, especially in this day and age.
Especially these days.
Okay, so, right understanding, right thought, right effort, right mindfulness, right speech. We're making our way
We're getting there.
through this path.
Yes.
And it's fascinating to see how these principles, they might seem a little bit abstract at first glance,
Right.
but they can actually be applied to very real-world situations.
They absolutely can. And as we move further along the Eightfold Path, we're going to see how all of these principles weave together to create this holistic approach to living a really fulfilling life.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive deeper then into right action. This sounds like we're getting into the nitty-gritty of how we actually live our lives.
Yes. Right. Action is about aligning our actions with our understanding of those Four Noble Truths
Mhm.
and our commitment to creating a more peaceful, more harmonious world.
Okay.
It's choosing actions that are skillful, ethical, and beneficial, both to ourselves and to others.
So this could be anything from the big life choices we make to the small everyday interactions we have.
It could be choosing a career path that aligns with your values.
Right.
Or it could be something as small as holding the door open for someone.
Yeah, just small acts of kindness.
Exactly. It's about bringing mindfulness and intention
Yeah.
to everything we do, Asking ourselves, is this action conducive to my own well-being? Is it conducive to others' well-being? Is it aligned with those principles of kindness, compassion, and non-harming?
We often think about action as being this big, bold thing
Yeah.
that takes so much effort. But Buddha's suggesting that even the smallest actions
They all matter.
can have a ripple effect,
Absolutely.
create a more positive, peaceful world.
Every little thing we do matters. Our actions shape our karma, they shape our future experiences, and they shape the world that we all share.
It makes you really rethink those little moments throughout the day.
Yeah.
Do we react with impatience, frustration when someone cuts us off in traffic? Or do we take a breath, practice patience, maybe even, offer a little wave of understanding?
Yeah, those small choices, they add up over time.
They do.
And they shape the quality of our lives,
Right. Okay, so right action check. We're really starting to see how this Eightfold Path is like a blueprint, almost.
Yeah, like a blueprint.
For living this more mindful and fulfilling life.
It is.
But what about, our work, our livelihood? Where does that fit into all of this?
That's where right livelihood comes in.
Okay.
This one encourages us to choose a profession that is aligned with our values,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't cause harm to ourselves or to others, and that contributes to the well-being of society as a whole.
It makes you think about how many people feel stuck
Oh, so many.
in jobs that are just unfulfilling
Yes.
or stressful or even like ethically compromising.
Yeah.
They might be making good money, but at what cost?
Right. At what cost to their well-being?
Right.
Livelihood. It's about recognizing that our work is a huge part of our lives,
Mm.
and it should be in harmony with our values.
So it's not about like everyone quitting their jobs
Right.
to become yoga teachers
Not
or,
necessarily.
right, organic farmers, although that's great for some people,
Yeah,
but it's more about examining what we're currently doing
exactly.
and seeing if there's ways to align it more closely with our values.
Yeah. Maybe it involves making small adjustments in your current role,
Mm.
maybe advocating for some more ethical practices within your company, or maybe it is a bigger shift
Right.
to a field that feels more aligned with your purpose, your passions.
Okay. So right understanding, right thought, right effort, right mindfulness, right speech, right action, right livelihood. We're down to the last two,
Almost there.
right concentration and right mindfulness.
Yeah. Wait, didn't we already talk about right mindfully?
We did touch on it. But it's important to remember that right mindfulness, it's not just a one-time concept.
Okay.
It's woven through the entire Eightfold Path, and it acts as a foundation for all the other elements. Right? So it's like the underlying current that runs through the entire river
Beautiful way to put it.
of the Eightfold Path.
Yeah.
And now we're taking a closer look at how it's a specific practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, right concentration, that's often cultivated through meditation,
Okay.
and it's about developing the ability to focus on a single object,
Okay.
whether that's your breath, a mantra, or even a visualization.
Right.
It's training our minds to be less distracted, less reactive, and more present.
So it's almost like we're building these mental muscles,
Yes,
strengthening our ability to focus
facilitating exactly
and resist those
all
distractions.
of those distractions.
But how does that relate to right mindfulness then? Because we've already talked about being present, being aware.
So the two actually work together synergistically,
Right.
right? Mindfulness, it helps us to become aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Okay.
And then right concentration, it helps us to stabilize and focus our attention. The more mindful we are, the easier it is to concentrate. And the deeper our concentration, the more insights we can gain through that mindfulness.
It's like a virtuous cycle.
It is.
They feed into each other.
Yeah, they each reinforce and enhance each other.
Okay.
And as we cultivate both, we start to experience this profound shift internally. We develop a greater sense of equanimity, a sense of peace and stability that's not so easily shaken by all the ups and downs of life.
That's a great point. It's not that life is going to be perfect. It's that you're able to kind of ride the waves
Ride the waves.
a little bit better.
Exactly.
So I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. The Eightfold Path, it's not just this random collection of practices. It's a system
It's a system, yeah.
for cultivating that inner peace, that happiness. But it all sounds like a lot of work.
It does.
Is there a shortcut?
That's a question we all have, right? We all want the quick fix.
Yeah, like, Buddha, give me the magic pill
D-
for
d-
enlightenment.
But his teachings point to a different path,
Okay.
one that requires effort, commitment,
Hmm.
and a willingness to embrace the whole journey.
Okay, so no bypassing, no hacking enlightenment.
Not really.
Mm.
But here's the good news. The path itself is the destination.
I like that.
The process of cultivating mindfulness, compassion, wisdom, it's inherently rewarding.
Oh.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of happiness in the future. It's about finding joy in the journey itself.
So it's not about the destination, it's about enjoying the scenery along the way.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
I love that.
Yeah. And the more we practice, the more those qualities become part of who we are.
Mhm.
You know, it's like building a muscle. It takes time, effort, consistency.
Right, you don't just walk into the gym and
Yeah,
lift 500
And
pounds.
suddenly you're ripped. No, it takes time.
Okay, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface
Yeah.
of Buddha's teachings, but I've learned so much.
Me too.
So, as we kind of wrap up this part, what's one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
Remember this, that happiness, according to Buddha, it's not this elusive external goal. It's an internal state of being that we cultivate
Okay.
through mindful awareness, compassion, and skillful action. And that path is available to everyone, no matter what your background is, what your beliefs are.
So no matter where we are in our lives right now, we all have the potential
We all have the potential.
to cultivate that deeper sense of peace
Absolutely.
and happiness.
We do.
It's not about becoming someone else.
Right.
It's about awakening to that wisdom that already exists within us.
If even a prince, surrounded by luxury and comfort,
I know, right?
had to learn happiness, what does that tell us about our own potential for transformation?
I love that. That's such a powerful message, I think, that we all need to hear.
Yeah,
It's a reminder that we're all in this together.
we are.
And that even the most enlightened beings, they all start somewhere.
They started somewhere.
So choose one practice, one teaching, one small step
A small step.
that really resonates with you.
Yeah.
And just see where it leads.
That's all it takes.
Who knows? You might surprise yourself.
You might.
All right. Welcome back, deep divers. So we've been spending some time with the Eightfold Path.
We have.
And I think it's time to get really, really practical. We've covered the philosophy, the framework, but how do we actually take these ancient teachings
Right.
and weave them into our very modern, very hectic lives?
You know, it's funny because some people, they see Buddhism as this very austere way of life.
Right.
Very detached. But the Eightfold Path is actually super practical.
Yeah.
It's not about renouncing the world. It's about engaging with the world.
Right.
Skillfully, ethically, and mindfully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we're not all going to go live in a cave and become monks.
Not all of us.
Right.
Although some people do, and that's...
Yeah, and more power to them.
Yeah, more power to them.
But for those of us, navigating the daily grind, the deadlines, the kids, the whole thing.
Right, the chaos.
How do we actually apply this wisdom?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that you don't have to overhaul your entire life to benefit from these teachings.
Okay.
Even incorporating just one element of the Eightfold Path, that can make a huge difference in your well-being.
So, let's say someone's struggling with work-life balance. They're constantly stressed, they're glued to their phones, they're always feeling that pressure to be on. Where's a good place for them to start? What would Buddha suggest?
In that case, I think focusing on right effort could be really transformative.
Okay.
Because it's about making conscious choices about where you're directing your energy.
Okay.
So maybe that looks like setting boundaries around work hours,
Yeah.
creating some tech-free zones at home, or maybe even committing to a daily mindfulness practice to kind of calm that always-on feeling.
So instead of just reacting to the chaos, they're taking control and they're making conscious choices.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming that sense of agency. And again, it doesn't have to be this huge shift. Even baby steps in the right direction can create momentum and lead to some positive changes.
Small steps, big changes.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about meditation.
Yes.
Because it seems like such a core practice in Buddhism. But for a lot of people, I think it feels a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Or even woo-woo,
I get it.
So how do we make meditation, more accessible?
Well, I think first we have to kind of dispel this myth that meditation is about emptying your mind.
Right.
Or achieving this blissful state of nothingness.
Right, because it's not about stopping your thoughts.
It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about learning to observe them without judgment.
It's more like training your mind like a muscle.
Exactly.
Right, you're building that strength, that
But
flexibility.
any muscle, it takes time.
It takes time, it takes consistency.
To develop, you don't walk into the gym and suddenly you're bench pressing 200 pounds.
Right, exactly.
You got to work up to it.
So what's a beginner's rep then for meditation? Something that even the most skeptical, fidgety person could try.
Start with just 5 minutes a day. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and just focus on your breath.
Okay.
Notice the sensations of your breath as you breathe in, as you breathe out. And when your mind wanders, and it will wander, gently guide it back to your breath.
That sounds so simple.
It does.
But I know from experience it's not easy.
It's not always easy. It takes practice.
It does. My mind is like a wild monkey, swinging from thought to thought.
But that's normal. That's totally normal. Everyone's mind does that.
Okay, good.
The key is to approach those wandering thoughts with curiosity, oh, look at that. My mind wandered again. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But don't beat yourself up about it.
Don't judge.
Yeah, no judgment.
Okay, so let's say someone has been dabbling in meditation, trying to build that mindfulness muscle.
Okay.
How do they take it to the next level? How do they use that in those everyday moments? When they're stressed, when they're frustrated. That moment when your computer crashes and you lose 3 hours of work?
I've been there.
Ugh.
The worst.
Well, remember that teaching on impermanence?
Yeah.
That applies to our emotions too.
Oh, interesting.
They're not solid and fixed, they're constantly ebbing and flowing.
Oh.
Just like those waves on the shore, emotions rise and fall. The key is to learn to kind of ride those waves without getting swept away by them.
So instead of getting sucked into that vortex of panic and frustration, you acknowledge it,
Acknowledge it.
but you don't let it take over.
You don't let it define you.
Right.
You notice it and you let it go.
This makes me think about when I'm feeling overwhelmed. My to-do list is a mile long. I've got deadlines looming.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And instead of letting that anxiety just dictate my actions, I can take a step back,
Take a step back.
breathe,
Breathe.
and then approach things in a more measured, calm way.
Exactly. Again, it's not about suppressing those emotions.
It's about learning to navigate them skillfully.
Okay, mindfulness is a super powerful tool. But what about cultivating more of the positive emotions?
Yes.
Joy, gratitude, love. Does Buddha have any tips for boosting those feel-good vibes?
Well, remember meditation. Cultivating loving kindness.
Yeah.
That's not just about sending well wishes to others.
Oh.
It's also about directing that compassion inwards towards ourselves.
Wait, we're supposed to be all lovey-dovey with ourselves.
It might sound a little strange at first.
Yeah, it does sound a little maybe narcissistic.
It might feel a little awkward, but remember that we are often our own harshest critics.
That's true.
Right? We beat ourselves up for our mistakes. We compare ourselves to others. We focus on all of our perceived flaws.
Yeah.
Meditation is like the antidote to that self-criticism.
Okay.
It's about cultivating self-compassion and acceptance.
So instead of that constant negative self-talk, that inner critic, we're practicing self-love.
Exactly.
Rightness.
Yeah, self-kindness.
That seems so important, especially today,
It is, especially today.
where everything's so image-focused and
comparison, yeah.
comparison, exactly.
Comparison.
And the cool thing is, the more we practice that self-compassion, the more we're able to extend it outwards to other people.
Exactly. It ripples out.
Okay, I'm really starting to see how all these pieces of the Eightfold Path fit together.
Yeah.
It's not just about sitting there meditating, it's about living your life.
Living it.
In this mindful, compassionate way.
Yeah, integrating those principles into every aspect.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
So as we wrap up our deep dive on happiness Buddha style,
Yes.
what's the key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
This is what I want you to remember. That happiness, according to Buddha, it's not this external goal. It's an internal state of being that we cultivate through mindful awareness, compassion, and skillful action.
And that path is available to all of us.
To everyone.
It doesn't matter your background, your beliefs, anything.
It's available to all of us. And if a prince, surrounded by luxury and comfort, had to learn happiness, what does that say about our own potential for transformation?
It's pretty inspiring, I think.
It is.
It's a reminder that we all have that capacity
We do.
to awaken to that deeper